Yes, San Luis Obispo is SLO to most Californians. Well, I'm going to remember that, Eileen. I need to know the local lingo. So if I ever go to California again, I'll just say, yeah, I've been up to SLO before instead of calling it San Luis Obispo. Because when I see SL, I start thinking Salt Lake. Of course, that's a C or SLC, Salt Lake City. They usually do SLC. So Kristen Smart, Paul Flores, and his father charged with her murder going back to 1996. I think it's a very well-known disappearance, kind of up on the Jennifer Kessie, Tara Grinstead level, maybe Maura Murray, Brian Schaefer level, maybe even. So I'm hoping they have I hope they have a lot of evidence and can charge these guys and convict them, but most importantly, find Kristen's remains. Produced slow, so you don't say SLO, you just call it slow. You Californians, Eileen. Marlene, I've heard of Paul Flores for years about Kristen Smart. At one time, they thought maybe Scott Peterson was a person of interest. I think I do remember that, Marlene. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about that. I think that there are a lot of disappearances that Unfound has covered, very much like Kristen's, where it's believed that a guy or men did something and just not able to prove it. You know, maybe another disappearance that's like hers is Susie Lyles. It's something that a disappearance that pops up to me that could be like Kristen Smart's. All right, so let's move on to it's 10:50 p.m., 10:51 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's move on to this Friday's episode. I wouldn't call this a real well-known episode. It's certainly not on it's not gotten the media coverage. For example, Jennifer Kessie, some of those that I just named. But this is a disappearance that has been featured on Disappeared. This Friday, we are covering the disappearance of Skylar Tosic, Tosic, specifically Skylar Gregory Peterson Tosic. And but we will be calling him Sky during the interview. I interviewed his mother, Olivia, on Monday. That interview went over an hour and a half. He disappeared from Escondido, California, going down the opposite direction from SLO, from LA, going south of LA instead of north of LA, Eileen. He disappeared from Escondido, California on August 30th, 2015. And I am calling this episode Uber to Ride, because on the day of his disappearance, he has taken an Uber from his house to this area that had an affiliation to San Diego Safari Park. Took an Uber ride near there, and the driver let him out, and Sky was never seen again. But what plays, I think, a major role, something that I think all of you will really have to analyze, and we try to cover it as best we could during the interview, were those couple days before. Because it seems in the couple days before August 30th, when he officially went missing, Sky was making some odd choices and being somewhat secretive. On August 28th, he took an Uber ride as well to that exact same area. And allegedly went camping, allegedly and hiking. But he ends up at this place called the San Pasqual Academy, and his mother and family did not find out about this till after he disappeared. And somebody from that academy gave him a ride home on August 30th. Well, he wasn't home that long, and he turned around, got an Uber again without telling his family. He just kind of left the house without telling them. And that is the last time that he was seen. If you'll remember the Disappeared episode, in that episode, I forget what year it came out. Don't know. But they tried to make a connection between Sky's disappearance and another young man who went missing from El Cajon, California, his name being Elijah Bear Diaz. Now, you should know that I have spoken to Elijah's mother in the past. Of course, she has not yet been interviewed for an episode of Unfound. We talk about that in the interview. I bring that up to Olivia, and we do talk about it at least a little bit. I'm not going to give away what she had to say. I want you to hear her say it for herself. But it is helpful that I've also it's weird. I got to talk to Olivia about there possibly being a connection between Sky's and Elijah's disappearance. But I also got to speak to Elijah's mother about a possible connection between his disappearance and Sky's. So I've had an opportunity to get both of their points of view on it. And I do talk about that during the interview. Now, another strange part of this case is that in the days before Skylar went missing, he was talking about having two friends named Thaddeus and Eli. Nobody knows who these people are. Nobody that knew Sky very well had ever seen them. He never introduced them to them, never came over to his house, no last names, nothing. And neither of these, if they exist, neither of these two people have ever come forward. These guys have ever come forward after Sky went missing to say, oh yeah, we were friends with Sky. Have never come forward. On the evening of the August 30th, after he left his parents' place and his mother's place and got this Uber, he sent her a text saying he was with two rich older women and they had passports. And that is the last communication, seemingly, that Sky sent to anybody. Once again, these women have never been identified if they exist. So that is going to be this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Skylar Tosic, T-O-S, once again, T-O-S-I-C, disappeared August 30th, 2015, from Escondido, California. The guest is his mother, Olivia, and the name of the episode is Uber to Ride. And I will be doing a YouTube video for this disappearance to help out where the Tosics were living, where this safari park is, where this academy is, and show you the surrounding area. I will do that tomorrow sometime. I will either upload it tomorrow night or Friday morning. So Cherie says, I think the new sheriff certainly helped. Before they were focused on education for young co-eds to be careful with alcohol intake. Not saying that's a bad idea, but it's not going to find Kristen. Eileen, I lived in Escondido for several years. Can't wait to hear more. I was familiar with Bear Diaz, but not Sky. Kathy, I'm familiar with both Bear and Sky's disappearances. Well, I can't wait to hear what you're going to have to say about that. Both of you, Eileen and Kathy, in the think tank on Sunday evening. I'm looking forward to that. So what did we do tonight? Of course, talked about disc golf. We talked about music very early on in the program, 70s and 80s. And of course, it always comes up how I dislike country music. It's been beautiful here the last few days. I hope it continues to this weekend for this disc golf tournament I'll be having right over there in that direction. Really working on my diet, continuing to work on my abs. I'm looking fantastic at 50, feeling fantastic. I'm down to 183 pounds. My goal is about 175, so I still have a ways to go. Told you I am going to get a different car, not a new car, but another car and get rid of my Sonata. But I'm not going to tell you what it is that I'm looking at, but when it happens, all of you will know. Talked about the Alwyn Albright poll. Talked about my appearance on the Think It Through podcast. Talked about the webinar regarding Dennis Rader. Next Thursday with Dr. Telesco. Don't forget. Mark it on your calendars. I gave you a preview of the next two, next Friday and the Friday after for the rest of April. Talked about Brian Schaefer, Ashley Summers, the disappearance of Corey Gauthier, and how her remains have been found. Talked about Kristen Smart. Took a question from Laura. Took a couple questions from all of you in the chat tonight. It's been spectacular. And then finished with talking about this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Sky Tosic. And Leah's leaving. Got to go to work now. See you, Leah. And for the rest of you, you all be hearing me on Friday. You'll be hearing me for a YouTube video that I'll do for Sky's disappearance. And then some of you in the think tank, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. We'll be talking about Sky's disappearance on Sunday evening. I do not anticipate any time changes. I think 7 p.m. Eastern will be fine. And that's about it. Yes, keep your head on a swivel out there. As